I used to think that being a good leader meant not to get emotional and not to overreact. But the thing that I've come to realize is that ignoring your emotions in leadership doesn't make you a great leader, it makes you a disconnected one. Hi, my name is Ashley Marina. I'm the host of the Ash to Dusk podcast, where we talk about everything and anything in the messy middle of life, from entrepreneurship, leadership, motherhood, parenthood, hormones, finances. If you're interested in it and I've experienced it, we are talking about it here on the podcast. Welcome. All right, this is our second part of our series, Breaking Down Emotions in Leadership. Last week, I believe it would be episode 51, but don't fact check me on that. We dove into one of the emotions that Emma Grede talked about in her book, Start With Yourself. This book, I love, you guys. She has no idea who I am. It's not an ad or a promotion of any sort. But I absolutely love this book. And there's a section in here where she is talking about emotions. Now, if you don't know who Emma Grede is, you need to go look her up. She is a co-founder of Skims with Kim Kardashian, Good American with Khloe Kardashian, and a lot of other brands. But she's speaking in this book from I resonated with it so much because she was so honest about what it takes and what it's like to be a mom and a woman in leadership. And I know we have a lot of male friends here. We have a lot of guys hanging out with us, which is great. And I think that you're going to learn something from this too, because I think oftentimes you guys were born and raised up to hide your emotions. And as a guy, you've never been given permission to be able to share your emotions and expose them and be vulnerable because it makes you weak. And then on the flip side, us women have been suppressed and told, don't show your emotion. It makes you weak and, you're supposed to suppress the emotions. And I think that there's a happy medium in the middle where we can both be vulnerable and we can show emotion without overreacting, without lashing out, without riding the emotional roller coaster wave, and learning how to maintain some sense of calm, more consistent emotion. So I think this will be good for no matter who you are watching, will be really good. She talks about anger, fear, guilt, sadness, and joy. So last week we talked about anger, and this week I thought we could talk about fear and guilt, because I do think that both can be similar and be lumped in together, but I want to talk about it. All right. And side note, by the way, let me get really nice and close here. If you're watching this on YouTube, okay, and you're like, why do you look like you've got several colors going on? Yeah, I have my grays. My grays are coming in. I'm due to go get my hair done soon. But here's the thing. I am not going to sit here and touch up my roots to record an episode, because that's just not my real life. And I'm going to show up here and try to be as real with you as possible. I was in a school district today doing some of my consulting work, and get back here and I'm like, I really need to record an episode because it's supposed to come out tomorrow. So if you're watching this on Wednesday, I just did this the day before, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my goodness. But hey, we're not going to go there. Okay, back to this. So I wanted to break down fear and guilt, especially in leadership. And let's start with fear. Emma uses this quote at the beginning of her section on fear, and I want to read it. If you can't beat fear, just do it scared. And it's by Glennon Doyle, and I absolutely love it. And I think what's happened sometimes is we become so fearful of something that two things happen. One, we either just don't do it, we avoid it, we run away, or we do the thing because we have to, or we feel forced, but then our true version of us doesn't come out because we are so scared. And I think that the fear is just this looming thing of what's going to happen in the future. We're just always thinking about what's going to happen in the future, especially in leadership. I think that's just part of our role. It's part of the requirement, I think, in leadership, is we should always be looking ahead and making sure that everyone we're bringing with us is on the right track. And so oftentimes we live in the future and we're not really good at living in the present. And so the downfall to that is that we're always manufacturing all the things that what if this happens? This could happen. And then what starts to happen internally is we are constantly worried and fearful of what might happen. Now, you might also have some fear to do things because once upon a time you were brave enough to do something, and when you did, you were reprimanded for it, or it didn't go as planned. So the next time it comes around to have to make a decision, you end up becoming so fearful that that's going to happen again. So let me give an example of this. I was a few years into being a food service director, and by that point, I always, like, someone said this to me, and I really do believe it now that I've been through being a director and then starting my own business. It's like, whenever you're in a new space, the first year is truly a learning year. You are just taking it all in. You're trying to understand what's happening. Then year 2, you start to feel a little bit more comfortable. You're like, okay, I'm still learning, but I want to tweak this or I want to do that. And then when you get to year 3, you're like, okay, I really am starting to understand this, and here's the direction I want to take my department or my team. And I was probably maybe year 3 or 4 into it, or maybe not even quite that, but I wanted to change up my team. So I had 3 different school buildings, so 3 different teams, and I could just easily see that people were just put on teams randomly. Like, there wasn't no rhyme or reason or intentionality behind it. It was just, okay, here's where you're at, and then they would replace. But once I got to know my team more, I said, oh my gosh, well, there's people in this kitchen who are really good at these things, while, in other kitchens, it's maybe not a strength. And how can we divide up all of the different personalities and the skill sets? So in my mind, this was going to go over great, right? I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to shine, to step in their purpose and their strengths. And I ran it by my boss, and he was good with it. Everything was fine. And I made the decision to do it the last month and a half of school, because I figured if I make this change before going into a new school year, if you work in school nutrition, you really know this. Now, hindsight and knowing more, probably wouldn't have done that. But in my mind at the moment, it was, instead of going into a new school year with half of my team shuffled around, because there was 9 people that I was going to be moving around out of a team of, I think maybe 20 at the time, or 21. So it was a significant amount of people. I thought, instead of them worrying all summer long and stressing about what their new position was going to look like and worried about meeting new people and making new friends in the kitchen, I thought, let's just do this now so that they can go into summer enjoying it and knowing what they're, what to expect when they come back. So my intention was good, right? I thought about them. I had this master plan, this is going to work great. And then I started to tell the team. I met with them individually and said, here's the change that's going to happen and the date that it's going to take effect and all these things. And we did it. And naturally, you're going to have some people who are so uncomfortable or not happy with the change, or maybe they took it in a way that felt as if they weren't appreciated, although it was no, I appreciate this skill set of yours so much that I need it over here. And my superintendent didn't know I was doing this, because I had went to my boss and got the approval and thought it was okay, and we thought it was all good. But my superintendent didn't know this. And now I have, at this point in my career as a food service director, I had the backing of my admin team, all the time. And somebody on my team called a board member. And that board member called my superintendent and was like, what is Ashley doing? Her team's mad, this is happening. And my superintendent was caught off guard because he didn't know, but I thought he knew because I thought my boss told him, right? Breakdown of communication, that's a totally different episode for a different day. And I'm sitting in my office, and I kid you not, before we get there, the office is set up to where it's almost like a horseshoe, or really it's like a rectangle. So there's offices all around, and in the center there's some cubicles. And so I had an office on the outside, in the wall. And he comes in my office. He is in my superintendent, my boss, comes in my office, slams the door so hard, and just starts going off on me, like reamed me a new one. How did you, you didn't tell me you were doing this. Why would you do this? You don't move people in the school year, and all these things. Now, I was so afraid because that inner child was in me of needing to please everybody, making everyone happy. I still struggled with that at that point in my career. And I was trying so hard not to cry, but I did. So speaking of emotions, okay, but I was crying because I was afraid, like the fear of him literally screaming at me. And he calmed down. Everything was fine. And, we had good conversation about it, and I learned a lot of lessons in it. But I think there was fear on his end of that, oh my gosh, what's the board going to think? Because how did I not know that this was happening under my nose? And then I was afraid of him, and my team was afraid of me because of the decisions I made. And all of that amped up fear boiled in all of us. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good because no one was really expressing it very well. And so the next time that I wanted to make a decision that was going to rock the boat, I thought about it, not even like a double thought, like I thought about it over and over and over again, because I thought, oh my gosh, am I going to get in trouble for this? Does this person know? And I kind of spiraled there. So I wanted to share that with you because I don't want you to keep getting hung up on past experiences that didn't go the right way. And that's where some of your fear is based out of. When I talk to Julie, my therapist, she asks me all the time when I talk about fear or anxiety, well, what truth do you have to back that up? What facts do you have to back that up? And sometimes I'll throw in, well, this happened before, or when I did this before, this happened. And it's a different situation. It was a different time. And so we can't always, we can use the past to help guide us and to gain wisdom and discernment. But that doesn't mean we should stop trying. It doesn't mean that we should shy away from things that are uncomfortable or that are hard. The fear of having conversations with our team. How many of you are afraid or fear having a tough conversation with a team member because of how they might react to you? Because of how they might react to you, or how they're going to, sabotage something you have going on your team. That's a real thing. And, last week when we talked about anger in leadership, and that, oftentimes we let the anger we have in other people show up in a way that's not good. Fear is the same way. When we lead in fear, our team is going to feel that fear. They're going to feel the same thing. But when we can show up with a little bit of confidence, a little bit of knowing that we were put exactly where we are meant to be, and that we need to trust our inner wisdom and our gut to know that we are making the best decision. And I also think that fear slows us down. I have been in the middle of pivoting and shifting my business for the last 6 months, and have plans to do so over the next couple of years. We have some pretty big goals and dreams that we want to make come true at Project School Nutrition and through my personal brand, Ashley Marina. I have had so much fear around this. What are people going to think? What if this doesn't work? The fear of it not just being perfect and perfection's not the goal. The goal is to just get it out there. And I have to, as much as I say this to you, is I have to remind myself, put it out there. Somebody needs this. Somebody wants it. It doesn't need to be perfect. And that's what resonates with all of us, because we don't want somebody who just has it all together and has never experienced any of the pain and the suffering that comes with leadership or putting yourself out there, right? Like, we want to know that we're not alone in this. And I have to remember it's not about perfection. And I think that that also stems into this fear of, well, what are people going to say? And I heard this. I was in a training myself the other day, and I was listening to Amy Porterfield. She's in the marketing space, in the business space. And I'm trying to surround myself with people who are further down the road than me, in similar spaces as me, so I can learn. And so I was on a webinar of hers, and she made a comment about you should be repelling more people than you are attracting. And if you're doing that, your messaging is right. If you're repelling more people, you are removing the people who should not be in your community, who should not be in your circle. And the only way that happens is when you stay true to yourself, when you speak from your heart and your gut, and you stay true to that moral compass and everything that you would live and die for. That's what matters. And I think in leadership, we oftentimes find ourselves having to waver a little bit and trying to please this person and that person out of the fear of, are we going to lose our job? What will happen if I make them upset? Instead of leading in confidence and leading from a place of abundance and out of a place of love, and knowing that those who are not aligned with the mission, the vision, and the goals of the company or of your team or your business, those people will leave when they don't feel aligned. And that's okay, because you're going to help them find their purpose by helping them recognize this place is not meant for them. It's okay to repel people from your life, personally and professionally. And you will attract the ones who are meant to be there. Now, speaking of confidence, if you don't follow me on social media, you missed out on the picture. I don't know, maybe I'll put it in my, maybe I'll do a little write-up in the newsletter coming up. By the way, if you're not signed up for my newsletters, head to ashleymarina.com and sign up for my weekly letter to you. I send it out every Sunday, and it's just things that I'm liking or just my thoughts from the week. But this week we went to see the new Michael Jackson movie. It was so good. It was so well done. We enjoyed it. But my family and I showed up in sweats. Like, we didn't care what we were just like, it was Sunday. We were just over the weather. We were over just baseball, all the things. And we show up looking very tired. And I was like, I actually said to Mike, are you okay if I leave the house like this? I really look bad. And not that Mike cares, but that's just how bad I was looking. And my youngest son, Dawson, he put on his white socks, black pants, black shoes, got all done up like Michael Jackson. And he walked right into that theater, just all decked out. He had heads turned. He was getting compliments like, hey, dude, I love your fit. And he just has this confidence about him. Sometimes I think he doesn't have any fear in him, which is kind of concerning to me. But he just has this way about him that is like, this is who I am. You can take it or leave it. And I want you to be who you are. I'm not going to change who you are. And I want to be who I am because this is what makes me happy. Having that at 10 years old is so just mind blowing to me, because I was not like that at 10. I may have came off confident maybe to some people, but I was a very insecure child. And it took me so many years beyond into adulthood before I could start to overcome some of those things. And I still struggle with it. But he just has this way about him. And when I mention about how he doesn't have fear, or at least I feel like he doesn't sometimes, and it's concerning, fear keeps you on your toes. So I don't want you to think of it as something bad or that we should never feel. I mean, fear just keeps us I fear public speaking still to this day. I'm a keynote speaker, but I still am afraid to get up on the stage. I still get nervous in that pit in my stomach and my voice, everything. I still get that. And I think that's a way for us to gauge and to know, we care. That's why we feel this way. We want to do a good job. We don't want to disappoint anyone. We want everyone to have a great experience and a good time. And so don't let fear scare you. When you feel that emotion, sit with it for a minute, identify it, write it out, speak it out loud. Why are you afraid right now? What is making you so fearful of this? And maybe you'll come to realize that it's just something more deep within. And it's not so much about everybody else. It's just about some sort of insecurity that you have. And if you remember from our last episode around anger, I said the same thing. If you sit with yourself for a minute and you wonder, why am I so angry about this? You might understand that it's more of an insecurity issue than anything. And yes, we have disappointment from people and fearing other people, but most of it starts within first. So anyways, I love this book. I can't recommend it enough. Next week, we are going to talk about guilt in leadership. I was going to do it today, but the episode's already been a little bit longer. So we're going to save guilt for next week, and we're going to keep the series going and just talk about emotions in leadership. And I would love to hear from you. Send me a DM on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're at on social media. Send me a message. I'd love to hear your thoughts on emotions and leadership and how they're different for you, whether if you're a man or a woman, because it's definitely different. Society has different expectations for both of us, but it's how we can show up and lead confidently and understand that our emotions are there for a reason. It's okay to feel them. And some of them we just need to put in a bubble and blow on and blow them away. And others we might just need to sit with for a little bit longer and understand why we're feeling them. All right, my friend, thank you so much for hanging out today. If you've made it this far, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. It helps reach people who are desperately craving a community where they can learn and grow. It also will send you reminders of when a new episode drops. And just a reminder, you can sign up for my weekly newsletter at ashleymarina.com. Until we meet again, my friend, keep your light burning from ash to dusk.